America's teen girls are engulfed in a growing wave of sadness, violence, and trauma. Over the past decade, teens, especially girls, have experienced dramatic increases in experiences of violence and poor mental health and suicide risk.
You're just now figuring that out? Hey there, teacher friends. Welcome back. I am Nina Rodriguez, and this is Miss Fit to Teach, where I talk about all things teaching and how to stay mentally, physically, and emotionally fit to teach. So if I have not met you already, please join our growing community by hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you and I can come together every week. So you may have seen it, this particular study has now made its way and circulated through all of the major news networks. I think each one of the major ones have done some kind of piece on this. So it is several days old, but generally people are freaking out about the results that came back of a survey of public school students who are basically letting everybody know how truly desolate, desperate, and depressed they feel. So they're referencing this study, and it comes from, it's based off of an anonymous survey that's given in school classrooms. And I actually know that the questionnaire that they're referring to, every year basically teachers have to give this anonymous survey, and before all of the high and mighty self-righteous warriors come out talking about how this is an invasion of privacy and this isn't fair, this is unjust to families and kids, slow your roll, because before anybody does this survey, the administrations, I can't speak for every district, but I know in our district, we send out a letter notifying parents and guardians of the survey that happens annually, and parents and guardians have the option of opting out their child. By no means is this mandatory for the children to take. It is just mandatory that teachers administer the survey by a certain date. So now, of course, the survey results are in. It's been weeks later, and people are rightfully terrified. One of the things that seem to be most striking is what we're finding mainly in teen girls is this heightened, severe, acute sense of desperation and complete and utter loneliness. Some of the scarier statistics that are mentioned in a different video by another news outlet was the fact that teen girls are citing an increased desire to not want to be here anymore. And you know exactly what that means. So I summarize all of this to say that my question at this point is, what would it take for parents and school systems and community systems to come together to save these kids? We have spent an exhaustive amount of time as communities and as school systems and just in parents forums talking about how all of the other entities in a child's life are somehow to blame for children falling through the cracks. On the parent side, it is the school systems and how they're not pushing kids, or how they're being too kind on kids, or how they're driving and pushing kids too hard and there's too much testing and there's not enough communication. On the school system side, it is the parents failing and the lack of communication when the school tries to initiate contact with parents and guardians. How kids just do not have necessary foundational skills that are needed so that they can come into the school system and be successful, such as manners and organization, again, communication with their teachers coming from parents and guardians, disciplinary matters and self-control, such as staying off of the phone, which we'll talk about in a minute because that's a whole separate matter. And then, of course, we have the community that seems to just blame everyone and anything else too, that it's the parents' fault and the school's fault, and there's not enough after-school resources, there's not enough school supplemental programs, not enough field trips, not enough internships, no sports programs, rec programs, camp programs that are designed to supplement and build a child's education and the whole child. While all of these matters certainly have their merit, and yes, they absolutely play a part in why these kids feel so bad all the time, I think what we need to do is stop pointing the finger of blame in every other direction and only take stock finally of the things that we can do ourselves. And there also needs to be a sense of ownership and accountability for all the things that happen leading up to a child falling through the cracks. One of the biggest drivers as an educator that I see day to day is our kids' sheer and utter dependence on social media and their smartphones. Drama and craziness and foolishness that's happening online is, I would say, it is more than half the battle at this point in any given school day. I cannot tell you how much collective class time a teacher loses in an entire school year for having to battle and engage in a back and forth with a child over stuff that they're doing on their phones, on their laptops, or on their just general devices. But social media specifically is probably the biggest driver of these spikes in depression, suicidal ideation, and the utter feeling of depravity and hopelessness that our kids are articulating now. I think on the whole, from the parent side, from the community side, and from the school side, we have got to work together to rein in this heavy addictive use of social media and this dependency that our kids are feeling on these phones. We have got to re-engage our kids in face-to-face conversations. We have got to work on building them in social situations, putting them in field trips, putting them in collaborative groups where they have to learn to communicate effectively and they have to learn to work as part of a team. And on the other side of that, we as an entire community, parent community, school, and outside organizations need to come together to provide the outlets that kids can use for one-on-one conversations with appropriate adults to talk about the things that they're feeling. Now, there is this other news piece that went out here recently where this particular lady talks about stuff that needs to happen in the school setting, and she had this to say.
From a school perspective, tell me.
From a school's perspective, we need to train teachers to be able to help manage the mental and behavioral issues that they are telling us that they are seeing in their classrooms. And so we need to give them the skills, not to burden them, but to actually take away the burden that they're already experiencing.
Now, this particular piece, I know that she means well and she is an expert in her field, but this part I found a little bit off-putting. I won't lie, she kind of annoyed me with this a little bit. Because how that comes across to a teacher is that A, we're not already doing enough. B, we clearly don't have enough going on, which couldn't be further from the truth. And C, I think it's a little bit patronizing to pitch this as teachers need this training because this is going to remove burden, not add burden. And if we're being honest, that's just not true. I understand, I'm not saying that I'm against doing trainings that would help me to better engage with my students, that would help me to identify moments of difficulty for them, things that they may be feeling that they're kind of not ready to articulate. I'm not saying that teachers should be against that kind of training. What I am saying is, let's call a spade a spade. If we are to do this, there's no way you're going to tell me that this does not add burden to teachers who are already taxed and exhausted. So if teachers are to be at the head of identifying these mental health crises in the students, one of two things would have to happen, in my opinion. A, we do this training with the understanding that we are now embarking on a different part, on a new part of our careers, a part where we, alongside playing teacher, we also have to play therapist a little bit. But if we're doing that, something needs to be taken off of a teacher's plate so that we don't continue to pile on responsibilities on teachers who cannot handle any more stress. So yes, if we're going to add this training, administrations and communities need to ask themselves, what can we take out of a teacher's responsibility so that we can better balance out their burden? And if we're not going to take anything off of a teacher's plate, then what we need to be talking about is some more money. If we're adding responsibility to somebody's career, to somebody's responsibilities, then it follows that we would also add to their salaries in a way that addresses the added burden. What are we talking here? Maybe a salary increase across the board of, say, starting at 10%, say 10, 15%. Regardless of what we do down the road or in the next several months to help address these factors, I think immediately school districts, school boards, and communities with parents need to start coming together to aggressively and thoughtfully combat the issues that our children are screaming out for help with. Our children are dying, literally dying at this point, waiting on us to help them in some way. And that is not to say that what we're doing isn't already enough or that we're not trying too hard. I think I can speak for all educators when I say we are pulling out all the stops to build relationships with your child, to show your child grace if and when they fall and stumble, to come up with customized plans that will help your child to be successful, and to work with parents and a community that seem almost dedicated to vilifying us constantly. So, if you have any thoughts on how we can start coming together to save our kids, post your ideas in the comments below. I love hearing from our community. I love hearing your thoughts on our different topics. Once again, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you next time. Do all you can to stay fit to teach. Be well. Our kids need us.